So whatever
Anything you
happened?
wanted to talk about?
Yeah, because whatever happened to because we did our top five female groups, and I didn't
Oh yeah,
realize.
we did.
Wonder if you ever thought about your top five male groups.
You know that and it's really weird because I have thought about it. And it's not to say anything about the ladies, but the guys, for some reason, it's harder for me to do that one. That list is very hard to compile. Um, but I do have a list of some fabulous groups that I really enjoyed as a youngster, and it's really hard to really say five. When we have to narrow it down to five, that's like difficult to me. Even with
Yeah.
the female list, because there were so many people after, and I'm like, oh, I
Mm.
should have said this person. But I would like to. Would you like to start off, or would you like to start off?
There you
Or
can
would
go.
you
You can
start
start. That's cool.
off? Okay, so scratching my neck because I'm kind of nervous because I'm like I don't want to say the wrong person. Okay, so for me, I'm gonna put at number five for me. Um, intro.
Okay.
Intro. Yes, Intro was a very I know they only had two albums,
Yeah.
but and they were only a gold act. Their first album went gold. It had the hits Love Thing, Come Inside, Ribbon in the Sky. But it really resonated with me. A lot of the songs on there, it was just the way Kenny sang, it was just
Mm.
his voice, it was very powerful and it just resonated with me. And I love that sound that that the harmonies that they had, just being a trio. I just love the harmonies and arrangements. Um, I love what they did to Ribbon of Sky. It's one of the few songs I actually like the remake better than the actual song, the
Mm.
original. No shade to Stevie's bad, but that
Yeah.
song, to me, I like that better than his, but he was the
Mm.
originator. Um, and the second album was also good. It went in a different direction, but they were just one of those groups that reminded me how much I loved just some guys getting together singing, you
Yeah.
know. And I when I was young, I used to get with my friends and we would kind of try to sing and things
Yeah.
like that. And they kind of reminded me of that. And so when he passed, I think it made that album impact me a little bit more
Mm.
because he was one of the first people, because I knew he had wrote for Mary, and Mary is another favorite of mine at the time.
Yeah.
And he wrote her Love No Limits and Reminisce,
Yeah.
um, several songs for her. And when I learned that, that kind of started me on the path to becoming a songwriter.
Well,
So,
okay.
like I said, when he passed in 2000 or 2001, it was a sad thing because um, I just felt like he had so much more to give, and I felt like
Yeah.
the group had so much more to do. So when you did an interview
With
with
Buddy.
Buddy,
Yeah.
it just kind of put some of those pieces together, and it also kind of brought out some of those emotions of how I felt. And it made me kind of, eager to hear the unreleased stuff that he said he was going to release.
Yeah.
Um, but like I said, for that, I wanted to highlight Intro because in the sea of R&B groups
Yeah.
in the 90s, there were a lot of great groups that got overshadowed with the
Mm.
diamond selling platinum this and the Grammy award winning, and there's the names you always hear, but then there are the other groups that inspired just as much, but they didn't have
Yeah.
and that's why I chose them for five.
Okay. Um, for my number five now, one of the criteria is always that they have to release two albums, and so
Mm,
my number five um would be New Edition. Now, I'm
okay.
sure a lot of people say, "Oh, that's so." As a performing group, they're probably my number one, just edging it over the Jacksons. But for recording, for the music, I take it my cue based on Heartbreak album, and then also the Home album, which I love Hit Me Off and You Don't Have to Worry and Count Me Out and a number of other
Mm,
tracks on that album. But I think when they came out with Heartbreak album, I didn't like Johnny Gill. I just thought he was trying to take Ralph's spot. Like, well, you're taking
Really?
Ralph's spot. But no, this was just awesome because Ralph was the main guy, and Johnny had a very powerful. Like, who's this man singing with these kids? But they had, that Heartbreak album from Can You Stand the Rain, Boys to Men, Not My Kind of Girl, If It Isn't Love, even Crucial. That was just such a really powerful album. And then when they came back with Bobby for so, and they've been consistent. There's powerful Anthony. So I don't want to waffle too much. So that's my number five. Who's your number four?
So my number four, and this was very difficult. I put at number four 112. And
Okay.
112 because I felt like in the late 90s, they were almost like the Boys to Men to, what was, the other acts like Jagged Edge or Next or whoever. Like they kind of kept the harmonies and the soft, sensitive sounding vocals and things like that. And they were like a mesh of different things. Like I heard a little bit of Boys to Men. I heard a little bit of Babyface, a little bit in there. I heard a little bit of just a lot of different things. So they were very consistent. That was another thing that really resonated with me and made me put them on this list, is that I'll say their first 3 to 4 albums were very consistent and they had a nice sound. It's Over Now, Cupid, Only You. I mean, just beautiful songs. So they're my number four.
Okay. My number four would be Intro, and
Okay.
you mentioned a lot of the reasons. They were, as I said, they were just a very different type of group compared to what was out there, and and Buddy mentioned that, look, the album should have been platinum, but sometimes labels, and I've heard
Right.
from other people that labels would under report the sales just because of money. Sometimes it's beneficial to say, yep, we've got a platinum album, but sometimes keeping it just a little bit under reporting means they don't have to pay out. So, but Intro, yeah, both albums had some real good hits. Who's your
Okay.
number three?
So for number three for me, is Drew Hill. And Drew Hill is really, really number one for me in a way, but it's number three for a reason. So Drew Hill has the awesome talent of Cisco and jazz. I think a lot of people don't realize like jazz has a wide vocal range. He's a beast vocally. So those two and Cisco's performance, like I don't know too many groups that can perform with Drew Hill. I've seen them in '96 when they first came out on a tour that had Aaliyah, Genuine. It was Drew Hill, Mary J. Blige, and Bone, Thugs and Harmony.
Wow.
And I'm gonna tell you, they had just the only songs they had out were not in my bed. They had Tell Me as the first single, and I believe what was the second single? Was it? It might have been In My Bed, but they were like pretty much new. And when I tell you they were the star attraction of that show, rest in peace, Aaliyah, but they stole the show. I'm talking Mary J. Blige was on the show, Genuine was on the show, Aaliyah, but they were the best performers. We all stood up when they ended their set. So the dynamics, the vocals, everything, the songwriting, they were self-contained to a certain degree. So I have to give them their props to being one of the best groups of that time and era.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Woody. Shout out to Woody for giving me the time for the interview and to learn about the journey of Drew Hill. Yeah, this was always a tough one when it comes to so my number three. I was gonna go with Mint Condition, and and it's strange enough they're not even on my list. But just as we are talking, I just thought, no, I have to bring them in because even though of any acts I've seen live, they're by far the best. I've seen pretty much when I lived in the States, I pretty much saw everyone, and they performed like their album. The songwriting, Stokely's singing, um, they were as performers. If you ever went to a Mint Condition concert, you'd say just perfection. Just as a band, we missed a lot of that.
Yeah, they're bad. They're bad.
Yeah, but they had some really Pretty Brown Eyes. The What Kind of Man. They just had so many. Yeah, the albums were just consistent. Were just lovely. So Mint Condition was my number 3.
Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah.
It's a band, but I'll give it to you.
You
I'm just
will.
joking.
Well, yeah, we did. Yeah, yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, they're a group. I'm joking. No. Oh, okay. So the first two, I mean, the next two are just easy. So 2 is going to be Jodeci, and
Okay.
Jodeci is one of the groups, like I said, that just established a certain thing for male groups in the '90s, and they're just iconic and just there's so many different things I can't even think of 'em right now, like "Cry for You," "Freaking You," "Forever My Lady," um, I'm sorry, Cisco,
AC.
KC and JoJo. Those two, that dynamic
Mm.
is just perfection. If you hear "Stay," that song, I love that song. And he has this certain tone. JoJo has a
Mm.
certain tone to his voice. It's just butter. I love it. Um, so they kind of represented the bad boy group of the era, and I don't know. I don't know what else to say. They're my number 2. I love them, and they kind of set the standard for Drew Hill. But Drew Hill was
Yeah.
a kind of a mishmash of different things, not just Jodeci, but
Yeah.
Boys to Men, all kinds of different things. So New
Yeah.
Edition.
Well, yeah. So I struggle with who is my number 1 and who's my number 2,
Right,
and
me too.
when I flipped, and I said the criteria was always a minimum of 2 albums, and based on that, I would have to go with Blackstreet being my number 2.
Okay.
Um, it's because, and it's strange because when they came out, I didn't see them as Guy Part 2. I just thought
Mm,
as them as just a different type of group. In some ways, I think they were influenced by Jodeci as well, less than
right.
Guy. I think, but then I think Teddy still then wanted the group to be first like a version of Jodeci and realizing we just can't compete with them, so let's just do our own thing. By the time they got
Mm,
to another level, um, what pushed them to number 2 was more so the inconsistency with the different members.
right.
Now, I've both Levi, Mark, Eric, who've come in and gone from different groups. I'm glad they were the stronger vocalists, but I think that I wish they had consistency with the lineup. But you had to give Teddy props for the music and
Yes.
creating a team environment to create great music and real powerful vocals. So, but Blackstreet's my number 2.
All right. So we're here at the number 1. So before I get to the number 1, I want to mention some honorable mentions.
Okay.
After 7,
Okay.
I love After 7. Kevon Evans. Oh
Yeah.
my God, his voice is awesome. H Town,
Okay.
Silk. Those are, I listen to them all the time. And the only thing, like I said, you hit on the head. The inconsistencies is kind of what leaves certain people off lists. But let me get to my number 1. Number 1 is obviously going to be Boys to Men. Everybody that
Okay.
knows me knows I'm a huge Boys to Men fan. And the reason this is kind of, like I said, sentimental in a way for me, because I had like a best friend growing up, and we used to always go back and forth with Boys to Men and Jodeci and which one was the best group.
Yeah.
And we did the whole thing of sharing our tapes when they would come out with new albums. We would like swap tapes and listen to this album and listen to this song. And
Yeah.
so it kind of brings back that. But I know in my heart I've always loved Boys to Men the most. But I was just always like, digging at him. Oh, I like Jodeci. So it wasn't true. I actually like Boys to Men. So this might be world premiere to him. I actually did like Boys to Men better. But just to get to the point, Boys to Men, it's just their harmonies and those classic songs that never die. And I think a lot of people like the second album. I love the first album. The first album is actually my favorite.
First album.
And it's just, to me, it felt more them because they were very heavily involved with the writing. Please Don't Go, Lonely
I
Heart.
love that one. Yeah.
Those songs are just, it just takes me back. Right. I love that.
Yeah.
But then also the up-tempos. I love Simpin'.
The closer and the closer I get to you. I love
okay. There
that
you
was
go.
when Mike that's because he barely sang, but yeah. In fact, I'm gonna actually listen to it today.
Mike.
Yeah.
Without Mike, it's just not the same without Mike. But
yeah.
yeah, so that first album, oh my God, that's my heart. I love that song. That's like, and I was like so young when I heard that album, but that was one of those first albums. I'm like, who is this? And I had the album, and I was reading all the credits and everything. The second album, I love that second album too. It just kind of went a little pop for me, but I did like it. And like I said, and the third album, I love that third album. I mean, I think even though they do get their credit, I feel like they don't. I think they've kind of been overshadowed because of the whole Jodeci legacy. It's kind of outlasted them a little bit because you hear most people talking about Jodeci today, but Boys to Men definitely, and most groups that came in the 90s and after that will tell you that Boys to Men were the blueprint, that they were the ones that inspired them, because they inspired me to sing, they inspired me to write songs. It was just so that's my number one.
Okay. Yeah, and fair cry. I think what I didn't like about Evolution is when they had the track with Puffy, and I think that's where things went awry, and I think when they had the dispute with Motown over royalties and things, and it's almost as if we're going to do a Prince and put out the album, and that just just spoiled the legacy. I saw them perform that I can't remember the name of the track with that Puffy track, and watching them dance, I'm thinking, what are you guys doing?
What are they doing?
I mean, I just saw them dancing for that track, and it just didn't sync. It was just like, and I saw it was hard. It was hard for me. I think that album, they had some good tracks, but the few songs they put out first just hurt them. So, but
well, there were also some rumors about their egos too. I think that hurt them in the business because Candy came out and said they were rude to her, and I can see it. I can see them having a little bit of ego. And Dallas Austin wanted her produced.
Said this, and some other people have said that. But anyway, I'll still give them their props. I mean, as I said, I think they made more money than, say, what Jodeci did, because they sold to a wider audience, and they became a blueprint for Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. They sort of followed them. But my number one group, I went through everything, has to be Guy. The future, as I said, I came into, the first album was great, 8 songs, but the future album was my sort of awakening into music, and just that album was so magical, and especially there's a lot of people in my generation, even if they went to boarding school in Nigeria with me, and not, we could remember the future album, and how Wanna Get With You, Her, and Teddy's Jam 2, and Dog Me Out, and Do Me Right, and Let's Chill, and Tease Me Tonight, and Yearning for Your Love, Let's Stay Together, Gotta Be a Leader, Dog Me Out. So it was just, it was, and if someone asks me which version of Guy do I prefer, the first or the second, unfortunately, Timmy wrote and produced and did everything, created the first album, but unfortunately didn't perform, so we never really saw him as part of that. But the music was different from the first to the second, but I was fine with that. So Guy, their performance and everything, and this was, as I said, I'm one of Teddy's biggest fans, and that he's despite him still not wanting to come on my show, I'm still going to be a big Teddy fan and stuff. But my number one will for now will be Guy, and I wonder if that will change. But for now, who knows? Blackstreet's new album coming out in the new year might change who I'd shift to, and if rumors are as it is that it's going to be a massive hits album, they may finally take Guy off number one spot.
Oh no. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, we love Teddy here. We love Teddy here. So hopefully, he'll reach back out. What I was gonna say is, what are your predictions with Guy? Do you think that there's ever a chance? I mean, I know you said that Aaron, he has some type of business now. So he's has he retired from the industry, or do you think there's a possibility for another Guy reunion? Because they always have that chatter going on every few years.
So listening to when I spoke with Timmy, and Timmy talks about how hard it is because they all signed their publishing away to Gene Griffin. Then Teddy's publishing, half of it Zomba took, Jive Records, and then the other half Gene Griffin took. So a lot of stuff that he did in the 80s, up to I even think his publishing he did with Michael Jackson, all that stuff got taken away because he signed them all off. Anything we see Don Real, Donna Riley, Don Real publishing, it was administered by Zomba.
That's a lot of stuff too.
I think a lot of all that got signed away without him, so he had to, So if you see his name on the Bobby album, and I think the Rex and Effect, and I think subsequent Blackstreet albums, he changed the publishing name and everything, because because of that, the money's in the touring. I think Aaron realized, it's a lot of strain on his voice, and he's the oldest out of all of them to go on stage and to sing to earn his money. So his
voice has changed.
Yeah, and he's the dog business, the breeding dogs and the training is giving him a stable income without him having to just go from place to place. And I do also wonder about, Teddy is not consistent. So Teddy can say, okay, we'll do some touring now, then he'll do his Blackstreet 2, he'll do this, Teddy and Friends, so Teddy has the ability and he takes care of himself. Teddy's takes care of himself physically, so he can go anywhere and he can still produce. He still has a name, and so I think Damien realized, look, it's not working out. So I'm waiting for everyone, so I need to do my own thing. So he's doing his acting and stuff. So
the answer's no.
Timmy Gatlin
There's
did
no
say,
reunion.
look, if somebody, New Edition were offered a big chunk of money to go do a Vegas residency. If somebody comes in and says, I want the four of you guys to come on tour, then here's how the money's going to be split. You will see them.
How would that even look, though? I've never seen Guy as a quartet.
So I would assume that Timmy would continue to play his bass, and probably he was still dancing. If you ever saw him perform, he was still performing and dancing. But I think he's probably been on the road less than the rest. He came out with his debut album. He had to because he agreed to do it with Tommy Boy. But I would think you'd see Damon doing the dancing with Teddy and Aaron, and Timmy would probably be on the bass and stuff, and singing and stuff. It would be funny because Damien doesn't like My Business, and Timmy doesn't like Round and Round. So it'll be interesting watching how they debate on that.
Right.
But that'll be it. So So I mean, it was great at least going through some of these things.
Okay,
and
cool.
We'll see what our next list is at the next time.